Hi, this is Chris from Moto Legends, the chap in the cap, here today to talk to you about a pair of rather different short boots from Daytona. They are called the Max Sports GTX boots. Before I get into the boots themselves, I need to tell you I feel a little bit about Daytona themselves. Daytona make the world's best motorcycle boots. The company was set up in 1957 by two brothers, Helmut and Reinhard Frey. They opened a factory in Bavaria, and the boots are still made in that factory today. And indeed, you can turn up at the factory and still find Helmut and Frey very much involved on a day-to-day basis. I've been to the factory to see Helmut using one of the machines, pressing out bits of leather, whilst his brother Reinhard is at the other end of the factory, sweeping up bits on the floor just to make sure everything is running nice and smoothly. These guys are not empire builders. They have no desire to have a company that sells motorcycle helmets, jackets, pants, gloves. They set out to make the best motorcycle boots that money can buy, and very few people would argue with the assertion that they have succeeded in doing that. These are, as I've said, the Max Sports GTX boots. They're a short boot. In some ways they are just the lower half of a boot like the Travel Star Pro or the Roadstar. There is one point of difference with these boots, and it's that it's got a raised heel lift. So at the back here there is a raised part. If I put my hand on the inside, it comes up to about there. It gives you at the back about an extra 6 centimeters in lift. Now that is important if you're a little bit height challenged in terms of you and the height of your bike. So if you find that when you're maneuvering your bike you're often on your tiptoes, you can be in these boots on your tiptoes but find that the complete sole of the boot is on the floor, giving you that extra grip on the floor, the purchase with the ground. It can be the difference between a bike toppling over and not. So we have some people who just cannot buy into the idea of a heel lift. They just can't get their heads around it. But we think that's on one level quite foolish. If you need this because of the bike you've got, if this is going to make you more secure at traffic lights when moving the bike, then we think it's money well spent. In most other regards, this is just a typical Daytona boot, so I'm going to walk you through the boot, explain all the features that make Daytonas quite so special. Daytona's always very comfortable. Helmut and Reinhard will only select the very best leathers. That leather they acknowledge is more expensive, and it does to the price of the boot what it does to the price of the boot. Their view is that they're going to use the very best components. They put them all together, they create the perfect boot, and then the price is what it is. You will always find a boot that is cheaper than a Daytona, and if that's what you want to do, fine. But if you want to access the finest boots, then you just have to cough up and pay what Daytona are asking. The leather, as I've said, is hydrophobically treated. They do this in the tanning process, so this isn't a coating that's put on once the boot is made or once the leathers are laid out in the factory. When the leather is being tanned, it is given a treatment that makes the leather hydrophobic. In other words, it repels water. That isn't the main reason these boots are waterproof. Every waterproof Daytona boot has a Gore-Tex lining. They will only work with Gore-Tex, and that's in heavy rain what will really stop water reaching the foot. But if you have a leather that is hydrophobic, that doesn't soak the rain in, then the boot is going to stay drier for longer, and when it's raining and cold, your foot is going to stay warmer. Boot opens with two side zips, falls forward. This is the membrane. You've got a gusset here so that even if rain were to come through the zips, it's not going to actually reach the foot. By and large, Daytona boots are pretty comfortable. We would normally, on most boots, recommend if somebody's a 44, they come into the shop here in Guildford, and we recommend that initially they try a 43 because in most instances the leather is so soft, they're quite generous in the foot that most people go down a size. I'm not sure that's going to be the case with these because of the heel lift. Normally a Daytona is pretty easy to get in and out of, but because you've got to get your foot under the boot, through here, under the bridge, with the heel lift, I think these boots sometimes fit a little bit more tightly than some of the others. So if you're a 44, I think you're going to have to be a 44 in this boot. In terms of protection, all of the standard features that you would expect to find on any Daytona boot. You've got a very tough toe cap here, but in typical Daytona fashion, that toe cap doesn't come all the way back. So here in the gear change area, there's nothing there. This is done on purpose so that you've got feel on the gear change. In some ways, there are some boots out there that have a toe cap that comes all the way back here. You just can't feel when you're changing gear. So where you need the protection over the toes and around the edges, this boot is very tough, but it's a bit softer as you get further back. You've got a tough counter in the heel, so extra strength there. Whilst we're here, a reflector here, a 3M Scotch-Light reflector, so that from behind it you can be seen. Not a protective item, but whilst I'm here, I can also show you this. This is an elasticated panel just to make the foot, just to make the boot a little bit more comfortable when you've got them on. A tough, oil-resistant, non-slip sole. In the ankles, in typical Daytona fashion, they have hard ankle protectors, but they're lined with an open cell foam. So even though there is a hard ankle protector here, when you're wearing the boot, you really can't feel it. And that's the same on all Daytona boots. They're all supremely comfortable to wear, but here I've had loads of pairs of Daytonas. I won't wear anything else, and you never ever feel the protectors. You've got a toughened shin protector here, even though it's quite a low one, and that's backed with a latex foam, again, for comfort. In terms of the strength of the boot, the other thing that these boots have, and it's very difficult to pull this out. I'm going to have a go, but I may fail. So this is the, talk amongst yourselves a minute. Okay, so that's the heel lift. It raises the boot by about 6 centimeters once it's overlaid over the plastic insole, which gives you a lift at the back of about 2.5 inches in old money. But what you have in the boot is a full-length plastic insert, which adds to the rigidity of the boot. But embedded into that plastic insert underneath it is a galvanized steel inlay. It's what gives these boots their supreme strength. So the front of the boot here, there's absolutely no flex in it. That's important because if you have an accident, you don't want the boot twisting and damaging or breaking the foot. If something runs over the foot, you don't want a boot that can collapse. But in this boot, whatever runs over it within reason, your foot is going to be protected. So these boots, not only are they comfortable, lovely to wear, completely waterproof, they're about as safe as you're going to find. At the top of the shaft here, one thing I forgot to mention, there's a neoprene band here. The idea here is that with a short boot is never going to be quite as waterproof as a long boot, and that's because rain will hit the ground, bounce off the ground, come up and can go over the top of the boot or soak the bottom of your motorcycle trouser, and that rain can then come down into the boot. This neoprene edging here, the idea is that that will catch that, which will stop rain going down into the foot. So, if you want a short boot, because you want a boot that's easier to walk around in, maybe a boot to use for the summer, then this is certainly a boot that you should look at. If you're wanting or needing a little bit of extra height on the boot, then as far as I know, I've not come across a single other boot of this ilk with a raised heel. In terms of cost, these boots are not cheap. A Daytona is never cheap, but as I've mentioned, the guys at Daytona, they basically just throw components at it. The price is the price. These are priced as we go to press, as it were, on this video towards the end of November in 2019. These boots are priced at $349.99. You can buy, maybe not a boot with a raised heel, but you can buy a boot that purports to do what these boots do for half the price. One of the reasons, however, that you spend extra money on a Daytona is quite simply they're going to last longer. I would expect on most short boots that you would buy on the market, if you get 3, 4, 5 years out of them, you're doing incredibly well. A Daytona boot, I would even conservatively expect to last for 10 years. and that is because Daytona will repair them. They will replace the sole. I don't know another single maker on the market who will do that. So if you found that you've worn through the sole, you've got holes in here and it's started to become leaky, then bring them into us. We send them off to Germany. We must send half a dozen pairs of boots back to Germany every month. They will replace that. They will replace the gear change selector. They will replace the zips. They will replace the waterproof inner. Obviously, there comes a point if you try to do all of those in one go, you pretty much reach the price of a new boot because all of these are chargeable facilities. But if just the sole goes or you want the gear change protector changed, with another boot you might have to throw them away. With a Daytona you don't have to. If therefore, in that context, if you look at this boot as a £350 boot that has a 10-year life, I've actually had my Daytona Roadstars for over 20 years and they're still going strong. But if you look at this as a boot that has a life of 10 years at £350, that's £35 a year. Surely that's not too much to pay for a boot that's going to be beautiful to wear, is going to protect you, is going to keep you dry. Anyway, that's the Max Sports GTX from Daytona. If you'd like to read more about the boots, about the sizing and so on, then feel free to visit the website www.motolegends.com. If you'd like to subscribe to our email bulletins, we get new products into the warehouse pretty much every day of the week throughout the year. When those products arrive, we tend to send out a bulletin either immediately or later in the week. So if you want to be kept informed about all the latest products and new arrivals, then subscribe on the front page of the website. There on the front page you'll find lots of little blocks, we call them tiles. There's one for subscribing, very easy to do, then you'll receive all of our email bulletins in the future. If you prefer, however, to get your information videographically, then we would love you to become a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and you can do that by subscribing on the subscribe button below. If you want to go and look at these boots now, maybe even buy a pair, then click on the button top right and you will go direct to the relevant page on the website. Anyway, these are the Max Sports GTX boots from Daytona. If you need a short boot, want the best boot and want a bit of extra height, then you've got to look at these. A bit more expensive than some, but as we've said, that should not be a deterrent. Anyway, this has been Chris from Moto Legends. We hope to talk to you soon.